yo, what up?
Hi.
What's goody, my people?
What's good?
What's goody, my people? What's goody, my people?
What's good?
goody, my people?
How's everyone doing? We're doing great.
We got to stop doing that because ain't nobody going to respond.
That's just like such a habit, you
It
know?
is. It is.
To be like, how are you doing?
It's a
I'm doing
habitual
great.
thing that we do.
Habitual thing.
Let's.
But we're doing good today.
Hey, we're doing.
I was off today.
Yeah.
So I had a pretty intense therapy session this morning. So I've been like napping.
For next episode.
Yeah. No, I am not even getting into that
Your
today.
therapist said don't talk about it today. It's sensitive.
It's very
Give
sensitive.
it time. Give it time.
I'll just give y'all a little spoiler. It was about the storms that we had a few days ago.
Yeah.
I was terrified. Hope everyone's good. Hope your property's good. There's not too much damage.
Yep. Hopefully y'all got Aflac.
Aflac.
Y'all got Aflac. Y'all covered. Welcome to the Habitual Podcast. This is David Uceda.
And I'm Emily Uceda.
And this podcast exists to be a catalyst for your self-awareness. And our hope and our goal is to always point you back to Jesus. So don't feel a certain way when we talk about my man Jay.
And we will point you back to Jesus because we are always talking about stories and scripture and love and all of that.
Listen,
goes back to the Lord.
That man is the cornerstone. All right? He's the air I breathe.
The firm foundation on which we stand,
That's right.
guys.
He is everything. Back at home, we say Jesus is everything.
He is our deliverer.
Huh?
Huh?
So
He's our healer.
Huh?
Yeah, you heard me.
That's right.
So guys.
So we're excited because we got another special guest for y'all for this episode. Let me see if I got it. Did I got it over here? Nah, I ain't got it.
It's not working today.
I ain't got it. Nah.
David's button's not working. What is he? Oh, here we go. Yeah.
There you go. It's working. All right. We got it ready. So we want to welcome my what would you say? My doppelganger, just in a different skin tone. Because we share the same name.
His white brother from another mother.
We both good looking and we both start with the name David.
That's right.
So we just want to welcome my man David Pierce on the show. What's up, David?
Hey guys, how's it going? Thank you.
Welcome. So I'm in the room with two Davids. What am I gonna do, guys?
It's a lot of David going on.
That's a lot. That's a lot of testosterone in the room.
Yeah, two Davids. I can
too
barely
much.
handle one. What am I gonna do with two?
I don't know.
It's all right. I'll
Welcome
barely be talking
I have
tonight.
no help for you around that.
Welcome on the pod.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
It's good to be here.
Thanks for
Chilling, man.
listening.
Absolutely.
And thank you for making time to be with us, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
excited.
Big fan of what y'all are doing. It's been a joy to listen to. and
Appreciate
really,
that, man.
And get to know y'all and feel like I'm in the room with y'all when y'all are doing your thing. So.
Yeah.
And it's dope because we go to church together. We have a relationship with one another. It's not just a type of thing where we just walk by and say God bless,
Yeah, absolutely.
but we actually have a genuine relationship. And so it's dope to be able to have people that we love and care about to be on here and share their story and share the things that God has done
absolutely.
and be vulnerable with us and
Yeah.
all the good things.
I feel like for me, before this, we were more like acquaintances, you know, but I'm excited. I always love bringing people on because I'm like, we're going to be friends when we leave here.
Yes, ma'am.
You
That's
know
right.
what I mean?
That's right. We're gonna there's nothing better than like being real and just being unfiltered with people.
Facts.
And
Yep.
having a real friendship versus,
Yeah.
like you said, how you doing as you walk by in the
Right.
hallway, right? So
Yeah.
I'm all about authenticity
Yes.
and just being open and honest and just letting it all out.
Being hot, honest, open, and transparent.
That's right.
I like it. I like it.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. So give us a little bit about you. Give us your origin story.
Yeah.
How it all started.
Is it a villain origin story or no? I'm just kidding.
What's the
It
first?
depends on who you ask.
What's the
I guess.
first? What's the first diaper? What was the first formula you had? What? No.
Stop.
Just play.
So I grew up here locally. I've always been in Tarrant County.
Where'd
Basically,
you go to school?
I went to school in Mansfield.
Oh,
Mansfield
nice.
High
Legacy?
School.
Oh,
Well, like OG before there was
Mansfield. That's like me with BHS.
Okay,
Centennial wasn't a thing yet, but that's cool.
So growing up in Mansfield was totally different back then. It was, I mean, it felt like a really small town.
Yeah.
The biggest thing in town was the Cowbell Rodeo.
That's crazy.
And there was like an old Walmart, like a brown, like Walmart, like before
Doo-doo
Walmart
brown
was
Walmart.
Yeah. It
Mansfield is bougie now.
it's a different world.
Hella bougie.
Yeah.
It is a different world for sure.
I don't even drive through there because my credit score is too low. There's like a force field that just don't
If you just knew,
pushes
like,
me back into Kennedale.
we played. Oh Lord, we played Pee Wee football like in a pasture. With I
Yeah.
mean, just because you
That's
paint
wild.
like chalk lines on a pasture, don't make it not a pasture. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying?
Yeah.
for sure.
And to see what it is today, it just blows my mind.
That's
So
crazy.
growing up, did you have both of your parents
I did. I had
and they were married?
so they were married. They got divorced when I was 6.
Hmm.
So I ended up living with my mom. We did move around a lot. Like I never went to a school like longer than a couple of school years. So for me, I think that shaped kind of my personality and how outgoing I am, how easy I am to
Mm-hmm.
to
Be
jump
a
into a
social
conversation.
butterfly.
Exactly.
Yep.
So
You
yeah,
had to have the skills to learn how to make friends.
absolutely. I didn't stay in the same school like all the way through until high school when I made it to Mansfield. So
Yeah,
that definitely played a big role for me.
absolutely.
But it also, you know, being that my parents got divorced, being like our family history, like a lot of the norms or things that I was kind of conditioned to just see as normal, like in retrospect weren't.
You're like, oh wait.
You know, like around specifically around, you know, divorce and being married and divorce just seemed like, yeah, that's
just
I mean,
normal.
that's normal. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And
Did you have like a lot of friends that kind of shared that same? in that
yeah,
time?
you know, I did. You know, I never really sat there and thought about it, but yeah, probably like half my friends were
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
like from a divorced household.
It was very common, you know?
So that was a big player for me. And I tell you, I mean, that kind of rolls right into like even after school. I met my, you know, high school sweetheart and dated her for several years. Ended up getting married to her pretty young at 22.
Yeah.
And like what ended up being the story for me was I kind of took that conditioning and that normalcy, and it just, I didn't skip a beat from what my, you know, what I'd seen my father do. So
What was that?
so really for me, in all honesty, it was infidelity.
Yeah.
I didn't know what like faithfulness and steadiness and
Committed and all that. Yeah.
commitment and true love was. You know, I had my own idea of what love was, but
Yeah.
like I can honestly say that whole time I was never faithful throughout that relationship.
Yeah.
And got married at 22. We were married for 9 years, together for
Wow.
13 years, almost 14 years. And just, I mean, there were so many things, even from my upbringing. I grew up a person of faith. I grew up, you know, going to church, but it wasn't a every Sunday type of thing. It wasn't a this one church, this one denomination thing. It was, you know, I went to Baptist church as a kid. My best friend in junior high into high school was going to Methodist church, so I'd go to youth group with him at Methodist church.
Yeah.
My ex-wife was Catholic, so I actually went to
Mass.
Catholic Mass for the 13, almost 14 years we were together. And then I even continued going to Mass after we had divorced because I didn't know where else to go.
Right.
Right.
And that's what I knew.
Yeah.
Which is a whole like weird thing. But
Speaking of, today's Ash Wednesday.
That's right.
My therapist had a cross on her head whenever I walked in. I was like, "What? What
This
is that?"
episode is brought to you by Ash Wednesday.
Yeah. I do have a question.
Yeah.
It's kind of deep.
Okay.
First off, props to you for coming on a podcast and saying, "Hey, I was unfaithful to my wife." That's definitely a vulnerable thing to come and say.
Absolutely.
Second off, do you feel like you have forgiven yourself for that?
I do. I do feel like I have. I feel like
How do you feel like you?
so a big part of that has come through my faith.
Mhm.
With me accepting Jesus in my life from a real, he's always been in my life, but for me playing an active role in that relationship,
Yes.
the grace that I received from God has just erased all the because I had guilt upon
Mm.
guilt upon guilt upon guilt. It
Yeah.
was so heavy on my heart. And the craziest thing is, it wasn't until years later that I realized I hadn't dealt with that guilt.
Mm.
I don't know how to say it, like mourned
Yeah.
the process
Yeah,
Grieved.
like you grieved.
Yeah.
of
What happened.
that divorce and what I did to somebody else, how I changed my own life, and then
Yeah.
Mhm.
the downward spiral that ensued like afterwards.
Yeah.
So the grace of God, like he just, he told me to lift your chin up,
Yeah.
keep your head up. You
Yeah.
got this.
He
I'm
said,
giving you another opportunity.
I knew this. I knew that this was going to happen when I went to the cross.
Yeah.
Like this particular situation is a reason that I died.
Mm-hmm. And that's funny that you say that, because here very recently I had one of those moments where I'm like, how many times do we think, like, do we just not see that, like, this wasn't a surprise to him.
Yeah.
No.
This wasn't I didn't see that was coming,
yeah.
like-
No,
Yeah.
we
like
already
the
had
moral,
a plan.
yes, we try to control it
Mhm.
and put our own like understanding around it, but it's a big picture, and his plan is there, and once I realized that, it changed so much for
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Or we like think that we have the power to disrupt God, or to
More
mess
often
God
than
up.
I care to admit. Yes.
And it's like, who am I? I'm just this little peasant. I cannot
Yeah.
thwart the plans of God,
but we still convince ourselves we can. Like
Yeah.
it takes.
or that you're like too far gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I know.
even-
I think everyone at this table has experienced
oh,
that.
without a doubt, even today I'll catch myself like, what are you doing? Like, really?
Facts. Yeah.
Come on. So I mean, it's just our truth, our sin nature, our
Yeah.
nature of just not depending on him completely, relying on him, and we put that down pretty fast sometimes. So.
Yeah. Okay. So, sorry, I asked that super deep question. You haven't even got it started yet.
It's all good. It's all good. So, I mean, basically, with that relationship, with my marriage, infidelity was just like there was no foundation there from me.
Mm.
I mean, I was married to a good woman. I was married to somebody that cared very deeply for me and loved me very deeply, and I really did betray her, and betrayed myself. But
For sure.
basically, how that relationship ended was I met a girl when I was going back to school to get my college degree. I ended up leaving my ex-wife for this girl, and you could probably guess how that turned out, right? So-
Right.
Yeah.
and it's
It's crazy. It everyone, like, so many people go through that same cycle,
Yes.
and we're like, we all know.
yes, I know. If only that's a whole nother story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, like I made the decision to leave her, and without getting too far in the weeds or anything,
Right.
basically everything that I thought I was doing to make myself happy, like, it showed itself as
Yeah.
as a lie, and and I just kind of spiraled out of control from there
Mm.
without even knowing it, to be honest,
Yeah.
without even realizing it was happening around me. So
What was a point where you looked up and you're like, oh, shoot, I spiraled?
are we ready to go there?
Yeah, I mean,
So,
I'm ready if y'all are ready.
yeah, let's do it. So, one of the big things I did after that relationship ended with the girl I cheated on my wife with, is I started chasing like toxic relationships. So, and literally anything I could do to hurt myself, I would do it
Mm.
emotionally, specifically.
Yeah.
I would go after women that would use me financially. I got myself in a lot of financial trouble, like huge credit card debt, huge debt. Made some really terrible decisions financially, just giving money to women, buying things for them. And all of that was in like subconsciously me hurting myself or trying to hurt myself. Like,
Mhm.
and I literally had one girl that I was dating in reality, but she was also catfishing me at the same
Mm.
time as
Oh
we
my
were
gosh.
truly dating with other personalities.
Oh, so like,
So it got
Chi-
so deep.
oh
That's
my
wild.
Like,
gosh.
fake personalities online, phone numbers, like the whole
Oh,
9
shoot.
yards. Like,
That's crazy.
So,
Oh my gosh. What is it, 48 hours? Or what's the show?
The Master of Disguise?
man, all of them.
That's
Like,
Oh
crazy.
my goodness.
so, and I can laugh about it now.
Yeah.
Of course.
But the sad thing is, you know, there's a saying that I've learned that hurt people,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
and that's been like sometimes I just have to remind myself that hurt people, and to think of like how bad that person was hurting to
Mhm.
do that to somebody else
Yeah.
is
Right.
really sad to me, and it's just in the moment and where my brain was, I was so hurt and so like devastated with myself and with my life, and I felt like I was letting everybody down, letting my parents
Mhm.
down, letting everyone that you know, my little brothers, everyone that looked up to me, um, and I felt so out of control, and I was in such a dark place that it's like I was ignorant to those things that were happening to me. I
Yeah.
was ignorant to the way I was behaving. I was trying to punish myself, and it's like I had so many conversations with people that loved me
Mhm.
that like tried to open my eyes,
Yeah.
and I could see it. Like I knew,
Mhm.
but I refused to do anything about it.
I feel that.
And I went down. I was drinking a lot, and just you know getting caught up in that lifestyle, hanging out at the bars and being around the wrong people, and it was like it was all just a coping mechanism with what
For
I was going
sure.
through, you
Yeah.
know? And it was convenient, it was easy. I could, you know, drown out my sorrows and do
Yeah.
it that way. And I think that with that, you know, the more I got into that lifestyle, of course I'm not meeting real good church girls at the bar,
Right.
you know, on
Mhm.
Saturday night.
Yeah.
So you're just meeting
You're
more
like,
of
Lord,
the same.
send me someone.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be at the bar,
Yeah.
so
I'm gonna be at Tommy's
yeah.
Oasis. So it's just like you dig your hole deeper without even realizing it.
Yeah.
So I went down that path and it got worse and worse. This thing happened with this girl, and I really like I started spiraling at that point, like
Yeah.
hard. And then I actually had something really tragic happen in my life at that time, even above and beyond what was going on with these relationships and the decisions I was making. My dad had gotten sick a couple of years previously, and he had a pretty nasty autoimmune disorder that they couldn't diagnose until it had already done a lot of damage to his body. So he got on a medication once they diagnosed him. The medication was really hard on his body, so his kidneys failed. He was on dialysis, but they finally got him on a different medication, and he had gotten like so much healthier.
What was the disease?
It's called scleroderma.
I feel like I've heard of it, but I'm not sure what it is.
So basically, what it is it causes your muscle tissues to harden.
Oh.
So he thought he had arthritis really bad in his hands.
Oh.
And then
like his extremities first started?
Yeah, and then it was like hard to breathe for him. And then it was stomach issues. So what it was, stomach lining like hardening.
Oh, that
and
sounds
then stuff
awful.
can't pass through.
Yeah.
Like his lungs were physically hardening. So he got healthy, but lots of damage had been done. So I came home from the bar one night. I'd been out drinking pretty heavily. I came home. At this point, I had moved out from the house I was living in with the girl I'd left my wife with. And I had gone back, and this was a hard thing to do. Go back to your dad and say, hey, can I move in with you, Dad?
Yeah.
How old were you at the time?
Early 30s.
Yeah.
So
That's tough.
Yeah. So I went back. Dad and stepmom allowed me to come back in very graciously. And so I was going through a lot of this crazy stuff with these relationships when I was there living with my parents. So came home from the bar one night, like, after closing time.
Mm-hmm. 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get home at like 3 or whatever. I go to sleep, crash in my bed. And I woke up to like crazy sound. I didn't know what it was. I thought I was dreaming. I was hearing a woman like screaming. And I woke up, and then I realized that I was hearing a woman screaming in the house.
Oh, gosh.
So I get up, walk out of the room, and I hear my stepmom screaming upstairs in the bedroom. So I go upstairs and basically found my stepmom like on top of my dad, like kind of pounding on him and screaming and crying. And my dad had a heart attack, a massive heart attack.
Oh.
So I jumped on the bed, knocked like threw her off the bed basically, because she was pretty hysterical and
like trying to save his life,
started CPR on him.
Mm-hmm.
Started giving him compressions and CPR, and it was the most haunting thing. I remember giving him CPR, and like every so many seconds, he would take like a deep breath, like a sound. I hope none of
like
y'all ever have to hear. Like just a terrible, terrible sound. And I remember thinking while I was there giving him CPR, like I reek of alcohol, like it's on my breath.
Yeah.
But I'm doing this thing right, and I tried and tried. I gave him CPR, and basically my dad died in my arms while I was trying to resuscitate him.
Wow.
So I went from being very internally depressed and in a dark place that I wasn't being vulnerable and telling people I was in, and out partying and drinking and doing all these things and spiraling and being taken advantage of and ruining myself financially. All this is going on, and my dad dies in my arms. And I'll never forget this. A lot of this is so embarrassing, but I'll never forget the only person I had to reach out to was that girl I was dating. And she had me blocked at that time. She was going through one of her little cycles she did where
Right.
she would get what she needed, she would block me, whatever, and then just throw
Pop
me
back
bait,
up,
throw
yeah.
me bait to come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is like 4 a.m. when by the time the ambulance left with my dad and my family, you know, my stepmom, my stepbrother, they left the house, or my half brother. I go outside and I just sit down in the driveway and I lean back against the garage door and I'm just like broken.
Mm.
And I looked on my phone and I went on Messenger and there was like one person active and it was one of the girls I had befriended on through like text and
Mhm.
Messenger and stuff. And it turned out it was one of her fake.
Oh my gosh.
Personality. Wow. So she wouldn't talk to me. So I'm telling her friend online, like, I've never needed somebody so bad in my life, and she's not there for me right now. I was like, I'm devastated, I'm broken, and she's not there for me. And I'm telling her just through another personality.
Did you know it was her?
No, not at that time.
You thought it was
Yeah.
her friend.
Yeah, I thought
Okay.
I thought it was a friend of mine.
Yeah.
That's how twisted it was.
Yeah.
So, it's like all these things, like in hindsight, I'm like, man, how jacked up was that? But I'll never forget that moment of you know, in hindsight, thinking like I've never felt more betrayed than in that moment. And again, my justification was, well, I deserved it.
Yeah.
You know, I deserved
Yeah.
that.
See, me thinking, I'm like, if you were to, it's like, say, my David, I will never do this, I promise. But like, say I had a fake profile and you shared something like that with the profile, I'd be like, oh shoot, I need to revert back.
Yeah.
To I need to unblock him and call him.
Like,
and,
how do you? Yes.
You know what I mean? Like.
So that's just like a nugget I'll never forget.
Yeah.
That happened that night. So at this point, you know, never grieved my marriage. Like, just racked full of guilt for the decisions I made, the things I've done. I also felt so guilty for like what I had allowed to happen with with me financially.
Yeah.
My dad died, and all the money I got from my dad, like my inheritance from my dad, all went to paying credit card bills and debt that I had like caused myself during this period of time.
Yeah.
Accumulated.
And that was like another layer of guilt that just crushed me.
Mm-hmm.
So if fast forward a little bit, and basically I met another girl that was decent enough, I guess I'd say.
She didn't catfish you.
No, she didn't
She
catfish
checks
me
the
at
box.
least. Yeah. So my standards were pretty low at this time.
Yeah, right.
So I met another girl.
Are you who you say you are?
And
okay, great.
Yes. So the thing was, I was living in this dark, depressed place. I met a girl that was a big party girl, a big drinker, but she was fun. She was fun. And like, having fun was so much better than crying myself to sleep.
Right.
Yeah,
It's a good
like
distraction.
And it was absolutely a distraction. So I dove into another toxic relationship with this girl. And, you know, we ended up moving in together eventually, and we're pretty serious. But, I mean, it was terrible. I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
I pretended to be happy.
Yeah.
Again, having fun, partying, living that life was way better than being depressed and being in that dark place. But it was, again, it was just a mask, right?
So I have a question. Whenever you were a child, were you aware that your dad was also having affairs?
Yes. I knew because just like me, he had left my mom for another woman.
Okay. So,
And-
that's why they got divorced
Yes.
when you were 6. Okay. So, because that's what I was thinking. I was thinking generational curses.
Okay.
And I was just curious if you were aware of that behavior or not, and it still passed to you.
So as a child, I never knew what my dad was doing or anything, but I knew I knew
Yeah.
the end result,
Kids
right?
aren't dumb.
And it was written on the wall what
Yeah.
had happened. So, so again, learned behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, with this relationship, it was rocky at best.
Yeah.
But still, I was determined. I need a normal life. I need to check these boxes. I need to, I do want
Mm-hmm.
to have a nice home
Mhm.
and a relationship and all these things.
Did you feel like if your life looked right, you would feel
Yes,
right?
absolutely. There was a big.
That's
big
such a
part of that.
lie from the enemy.
Absolutely.
And I still deal with that.
yes.
Again,
and it was like another twisted way of trying to punish myself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
self-sabotage,
Yes. So basically, I worked for the city of Fort Worth. At this point, I worked for the city of Fort Worth for 14 years.
Oh,
I had
wow.
a career there. Had gone back to school. Had started moving up into better positions, and was really positioning myself to make a career out of the city. And had an office job. Had an important job. And one morning, it was a payday Friday. I remember going into the office, starting my day, going through the emails, whatever, just getting my day started. And I got a call from my girlfriend screaming at me, yelling at me. And she basically was telling me that I didn't have any money in the bank.
Oh, no.
And I was supposed to have gotten paid that day. So
Oh,
the bank
no.
had, and I can't think of the term for it, but the bank had basically come and seized my
Your
bank
assets.
account.
Like
Yeah.
they
They
froze
left
your
me-
accounts.
Yeah, or seized your assets.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they left me with $100 in the bank, and they took everything
Wow.
else. So
Oh, no.
rent was due, water, electric,
Everything.
everything, everything
Was
for the
this
month.
from a debt?
This was from the debts I had.
Oh, yikes.
I had, this credit card debt, these different things that I owed big on. I'm tens of thousands of dollars,
wow,
right?
yeah.
So
Wow.
they took my check. So I, in the office at work, call the bank, get on the phone with somebody, and I start like you could probably guess it wasn't a very responsible conversation
Yeah.
or mature conversation, but got in a pretty heated conversation with the bank. Was transferred around a little bit, and the longer the conversation lasted, the louder I got. There was a lot of fist banging on the desk. At one point, I slammed my office door closed. And I say this to say that when this happened, one of my coworkers went to upper management and said that they felt like they were working in an unsafe environment around me.
Oh, because of the way you were responding to that
Yes.
call.
Oh.
So
Them not having any sort of context as to why.
no, exactly. Or to me, ever being that way around them,
Yeah.
So my depression. This was the shift for me. So my depression really started shifting into anger.
Yeah.
So where it was buried deep before, and no one on the outside would really know. Now it was.
You were feeling something.
Yes.
You could put something out into the universe that was tangible.
Yes, and it came out. I say it comes out. Things are always going to come out sideways.
Yeah.
Mine
Yeah.
came out sideways as anger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
they
That's
they always
interesting,
say
yeah.
what you don't speak will come out of your body
Yeah.
through actions.
Yeah, absolutely. And anger is an underlying emotion,
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how my depression came out sideways was through this anger. So
Mm-hmm.
that happened, and it turned into a big ordeal at work. I ended up getting put on probation at work. They put me on like a 60-day probation or whatever it was. So, fast forward like a month or so, we're out bar hopping, living the party lifestyle, drinking. That my girlfriend at the time, she was definitely an alcoholic, and like pretty severe alcoholic, and I was just along for the ride.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, again, in retrospect, it was kind of scary, but
Yeah.
you know, I was along for the ride. I was having fun. I wasn't like, you know, I wasn't in a dark place. I was in a fun place, right?
Right.
We just put a different label on it.
Right.
So we're out bar hopping one night. We end up at like our bar that we'd go to, and saw a bunch of people we went to high school with, hung out with, and ended up inviting a bunch of people back to our house. Probably like a dozen people came back to our house from the bar at closing time.
Oh no.
So again, it's late night. It's, you know, nothing good happens after midnight, right?
My dad, let me plug this in. My dad has always told me the only thing open after 2 are legs.
Oh, Lord.
He said, you better get home. You better come home now.
So that plays into it. So we had like all kinds of crazy stuff going on in our house. And I come through and see something inappropriate happening, and we got kids in the house, like
Oh no.
like teenage kids.
Oh.
Because
Well, yeah.
my girlfriend at the time had a daughter that was 15, 16 at that time. And she had some friends spending the night. So yeah, we were setting a real good example too. So
Oh yeah.
like it was real easy for me to have a lot of shame around my actions at that time. So there was just nothing inappropriate with the kids, but there was
Right.
some stuff that was happening in the house that shouldn't be happening, like when the kids are there too.
Yeah.
So I kind of put my foot down and stopped it, and
Yeah.
I'm intoxicated. It's like
Right.
3 a.m. again, and I end up going outside, and I go, you know what? Party's over. Everybody go home. And there was a couple of guys there that I didn't know. They were like friends of a friend of a friend that ended up jumping in the caravan back to our place from the bar.
Mm-hmm.
So I said it again, like, hey, it's time to go. And everyone had started packing up except these 2 guys. And the guy started smarting off to me, kind of starting stuff with me.
Just running their mouths.
Running their mouths, you know. So I don't know why it was then and there, but it was at this moment that David snapped.
Oh.
David's done.
Everything that I
Oh,
had been
wow.
through, had gone through, like came out in that moment. And I walked right up to the kind of leader of the 2 guys, the biggest guy in the room, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Right up to him, and I punched him one time with everything I had. And I guess it was the greatest punch in the world because
No. Just one. Oh, sorry.
You stop.
Sorry.
Because-
We're Christians
We
here.
are.
but,
We
like,
love.
I'm still like, whenever you share this, I'm
Yes.
still like, yeah, drunk David.
so literally, like I broke his face.
Oh my
Oh.
gosh.
And-
Okay, maybe not.
No. So- yeah, thank you. Take it back. So he like flies out of his chair, lands into somebody I know's lap who's like passed out,
Yeah.
drunk, asleep in the garage, rolls out of the garage, and I'm thinking he's about to like, you know, I'm about to get in a fight. This is my first fight ever. Like,
Wow, yeah.
That's
I'm
crazy.
like, all right, I'm about to get in a fight, you know. Well, I didn't know the fight was over. So he stands up, and instead of doing anything, he grabs in his pocket, pulls out his phone, and he
Oh, I thought
calls. No. He calls 911.
Oh.
I thought I'm about to call his mom. Mom.
No, I thought he was about to pull out a
They're really
gun.
mean
I thought
here.
that's what you were going to say.
So he calls 911. The cops come. I go to jail.
Oh.
Oh, man.
And this is Friday night.
What?
Yes. So, you know, this is late Friday night. early Saturday morning. I go to jail for the first time in my life. They book me in. I spend the night in like the drunk tank or whatever.
Yeah.
They throw me in like a holding place like for a long time. I mean, it was an eternity.
Yeah.
So and then the next day, the next morning, whenever it was, they transferred me to county. So I went to county.
What, Green Bay or?
No, just like the Tarrant County, like
Oh, the actual
Jail,
jail.
yeah. So I'm in there, and it was just one of the weirdest moments because I consider myself a pretty normal, pretty good guy, pretty like
Yeah.
even like pre-Jesus David was like
I feed the ducks.
I was a pretty good guy, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like I never felt more out of place in my life.
Oh my goodness.
Being in this jail, like
Yeah.
listening to the conversations, like, and I'm thinking, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? Like, how did it get to this point, you know? And Friday turned into Saturday, turned into Sunday, and they still haven't processed me into the jail yet because the judge doesn't come to Tarrant County till Monday morning. So Monday morning, I'm in a cell with like 40, 50 guys, a big room. I slept on the floor. I used my shoes as a pillow. And it's
no.
like 30 degrees in this room,
Man.
I swear. And I have like a t-shirt and shorts on, you know, miserable. And I just remembered standing up in the room, like against the wall, and every other person in the room was asleep or laying or sitting down. And I was the only one standing, and I remember staring at the wall on the clock and just staring at it and watching the seconds tick off. And 8 a.m. Monday morning ticked by on the clock, and I said to myself, I just lost my job.
Oh.
And I was on probation, and I had a no-call, no-show at work while on probation. And my family all called, my girlfriend called, but it don't matter. If the employee don't call, it's not a
Right.
Mm-hmm.
excused absence, right? Or
Right.
at the very least, a notification that you can't be there. So 14 years with the company, what I envisioned to be a career ahead of me, I lost my job. And that like just rocked me. It was like everything else I was strong enough to hold, but
Right.
that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, and it just rocked me. And
Well, I feel like your finances were almost a resource of power for you too.
yeah,
Like,
true.
you know, if you were pouring out on women, you know, it's like that was something you had literally in your pocket, you
Yeah.
know?
For sure. It was, and then the layer on top of that is all the debt, the reality of the debt I had created. And now
Right.
what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And now I got a girlfriend at home. I got a teenage daughter at home.
Mm-hmm.
They depend on me now. There was just so many layers to that onion, you know?
Yeah.
So I lost my job. And this whole time I had been, had a friend, a couple of people I knew had gone through like a program that was like I knew nothing about, but I knew it had drastically changed their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like the person they became after going through this program was like exact opposite of the old them that I knew.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine had mentioned it, brought it up to me a couple times. Nothing, no pressure, no nothing, just talked about it. I'd see them post on social media. I'd see the life they're living, the career choices they're making, the progress in their life, all these things. And I don't know. I lost my job, and I was so desperate. And we went to like a backyard cookout at my cousin's house, and that friend was there. And I remember walking up to her and say, "Hey, this Pathways thing you did, what do I need to do?
I'm ready.
I'm ready."
Yeah. So
She's-
was this when you got out of jail? Like,
Yeah,
was that kind
so-
of your point?
That was it. When I lost my job, like, so it was still a few weeks before I officially got fired. But it was when
Yeah, it was happening.
yeah.
Yeah.
it was, I got fired. I didn't have a job. It was a reality.
Mhm.
I'm
Low
rock
point.
bottom.
Yeah.
So,
You always think of those people.
yes.
You know, like when I was at my rock bottom, like I knew I had to get back to Jesus.
Mhm. You know what's
You
so
know,
funny?
and I hadn't followed. You know,
Yes.
like I was a believer in Christ, but I had never had. I don't know if I ever actually had a personal relationship with Christ until I was at rock bottom. I was raised in church, but
Uh-huh.
it's just so crazy. You keep these in your mind, you know, like these. And it makes me think of the scripture that says, when you're being tempted, the Lord will always give you a way out.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
You know
it's
what
funny
I mean?
because you think of, there's those moments.
And they just pop. They
where
pop in your
and
brain,
it may
and
be
you're
a
like,
it may be a bad thing or it may be a good thing. It can be the worst of the worst things
Right.
that happen in your life, but you just see Jesus, his fingerprints on that moment because
mhm.
you know that was a shift.
Yeah,
That
something's
was
happening.
a change.
Yeah.
That, you know, and there's so many in my life, and that was a moment. And you know what's funny is those moments are the moments that I picture. It's in my head.
Mm-hmm.
The room, who was there,
Yeah.
what happened.
It's like
I remember
a
every
vivid
detail.
memory.
And good and bad, I have those moments, and
Mhm.
they're all the pivot points that brought me ultimately to that moment, asking about pathways.
Yeah.
So my friend, her name's Sarah Drehobel. She's like,
Thank you, Sarah.
yes,
Right?
thank
for
you, Sarah.
For giving the resource.
So Sarah basically said, I was like, what do I got to do? Just tell me, like, how does this work? She said, do you trust me? Do you trust that I care about you?
Mm.
And I was like, I do. And I wasn't even close friends with Sarah. We were acquaintances. Like we
Yeah.
knew, we went to school together. We knew the same people. We had the same, like similar
Mhm.
friends, but we weren't close.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, do you trust that I care about you? And I was like, I don't know why, but you're looking me in my eye and I've seen what it's done in your life from afar.
Yeah.
And I was like, I trust you.
Yeah. It was
And
her testimony
yes.
that.
So she said, Pat, there's a training this Friday. Pack a bag for the weekend, dress comfy, show up at this address at this time. And I did. I packed a bag. I showed up. I had nothing to lose. And like that was the beginning of the rest of my life.
Yay.
So dope, man.
Walking through the doors of that training.
Yeah.
So
And how long was that training for? Or is it something that you're still kind of working through, or is it something
So-
I imagine you already completed?
yes, so the training is basically set up as you do 4 different trainings.
Yeah.
It's a weekend, a Friday through Sunday, and then 10 days later you do a Wednesday through Sunday,
Gotcha.
and then 1 month later you do a Friday through Sunday, and 1 month after that you do a Friday through Sunday.
Mm.
So it's a 4-month program or a 3-month program.
Yeah.
They've condensed it a little now. It takes 3 months to do the whole training now. It's like, if I had to like put it in a nutshell, it's a like hardcore emotional training.
Mm.
It's it's so hard to pinpoint what it is.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
not. So I will say this: it's not a spiritual training, like so to speak.
It's very practical.
It's very practical.
Yeah.
It's very like. There's a lot of therapy methods they use. There's a lot of like known existing methods. It's just the way they've woven them into this training and the order they do them in, and
Yeah.
the highs and lows you go through.
Right.
It really like takes all these processes and just stretches you to your limit. Like, so you do a lot of processes in large group. You do a lot of processes in dyads, like one-on-one with another classmate.
Yeah.
You do a lot of stuff in small groups. So, and you go through with a class. It's not like a one-on-one thing with a therapist or something. It's you have a lead facilitator. You have a team that works the training.
Yeah.
And everybody has a job and a purpose. So you go in with the class. My class had 35 people when we started.
Wow.
So there was 35 people that chose that weekend to do something different, just like I did.
Right.
Just crazy to think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
35 stories.
That's so wild,
Of
man.
different people, like what they were going through. So,
Right.
and I wouldn't say that Pathways is like specifically for a certain ailment, so to say.
Yeah.
Pathways, my class alone, I'll speak from my class, from my experience. We had people in my class that were highly suicidal,
Mm.
like on their last, like this is my last ditch.
Like
effort.
if this doesn't work,
If this doesn't work, I'm
oh,
killing myself.
Man.
I had people in my class that were recovering from drugs, alcohol, substance abuse. I had people in my class that had just gone through terrible divorces. I had people in my class that were, stay-at-home moms that just knew that like there's got to be something more to life than putting my identity in my kids, right? Like I want to live a life for me.
Mm.
So
kind of addresses everything.
when I'm telling you, like across the board, like there's no end to like the people that are coming. They're military veterans, PTSD,
Wow.
like so many things.
It's called Pathways
Pathways core training.
Core Training.
Yes. So
Is there a cost to it?
yes, there is a cost. There's a, and I can't say like specific
Yeah,
prices.
right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know, but
you'll have to look it up. Yeah,
there is a cost.
but it's worth investing in
But
yourself.
I'll say this, it's an investment in yourself. And another thing I'll say is if we go back to my story, I had just come off of losing my job. I was desperate. I was like doing side jobs, working for people, like doing anything I could to make money to pay the bills, right? I literally didn't have a real job when I went through my training. I could not even afford to pay the registration fee to get booked to be in the class.
Mm.
Yeah.
So my sponsor, Sarah, she paid for my first training, the first weekend. And she didn't tell me there was other trainings. She didn't tell me
She's like,
jack.
Yeah.
She was just trying to get you through
Yeah,
the door
just trying to
first.
get you in.
She said, "Do you trust me?
Yeah.
Will you commit to a weekend?"
Yeah.
And so I showed up that weekend not knowing there was more to it. She covered the cost.
Wow.
So I ended up going through all the trainings, my 4 months that I went through, and I never spent a penny.
Mm.
Wow.
So what we say at Pathways is no one will ever be denied the training for lack of funds.
Yeah.
That being said, no one's going to be given the training, but if someone will fight for themselves and work for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of assistance from the Pathways community.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of avenues that, and there's like a financial advisor that will help them think of fundraising ideas, think
Mhm.
of ways to give, like maybe they have a skill set, they're a handyman or they
Yeah.
cut grass
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
They can go
Make your way in.
I'll cut your grass if you make a donation to my invoice.
Program. Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. So I worked my butt off to like get through. A really gracious person donated a lot of shirts to me, and they were my hug dealer shirts. So they said hug dealer across the front. So a big thing in Pathways, and maybe y'all have noticed it with me, I hug everybody.
I'm a big hugger.
And it's a
I love
Pathways
it.
thing. So we don't shake hands. We hug. We
Yeah.
hug it out, So
I love that.
and it was really awkward at first, but it so has grown on me.
So were you a hugger before going into this program?
Like I would say I was a mild hugger going
Ish.
in. Yeah.
Because you get pretty good hugs, doesn't he? Doesn't he? Yeah.
So it's like
It's like a warm hug.
It-
like
it grew
there's
on me.
love there.
it grew
yeah.
on me. Yeah, because it's like again, going back to what I said before, I want authentic relationships. I want authentic interactions,
100%.
right? And when you come in and show true love through connection that way, like people see that you're real. They feel that you're
Yeah.
real. And that's valuable to me. So
And not even to mention like the scientific like benefit of hugs.
Yeah.
You know, like it releases
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the happy hormones. Like I
Absolutely.
can see how that is such a beneficial part too.
I even catch myself in my professional life,
Right.
like hugging a customer or something.
I will
And
do
I'm
the
like-
same thing. I'll sell a pair of glasses and be like, bring it in. Bring it in.
So it's funny, like it's like a contagious feeling, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's just who I am now, and I'm so proud of that.
I just think it's awesome that your hugs are the equivalents of Sarah's words when
Yeah,
she
they
first
can
spoke
be.
to you.
They sure
Do
can
you
be.
trust in me? Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, and I love the Jesus in that. You know, where she was like, "Do you trust me?" And I feel like when we're at our lowest points, that's always Jesus himself.
uh-huh. I have a scripture I wanted to share today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's big for me. So going back to like talking about being vulnerable, like I think that telling your story, being unashamed of your story, being unashamed of your past, like I had to go through what I went through to be a hugger today.
Yeah.
You know, it's the little things. It's
beautiful.
like, but 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 9 and 10, Paul tells us, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. For the sake of Christ, then I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong."
Mm.
Amen.
And I think that's such a fitting verse for me,
Yeah.
considering what all I went through, all the bad decisions I made, all the spiral I allowed myself to go down.
Mhm.
You know, I didn't even say, like, when I lost my job, my whole inheritance from my father went to paying my debts off.
Yeah.
When I lost my job, I had a pretty significant retirement.
Mm.
Oh, that's great.
Every single penny of it, I paid off debt.
Wow.
Tens of thousands of dollars
Wow.
went to my debts. But I'll tell you what, I had lost my job. I was so desperate. I was so scared about how I was going to provide and get through. It paid every penny I owed in my debt,
Mm.
Praise God.
like almost to the dollar.
Yeah, that's insane.
And it was like I wanted to be so upset and so depressed about losing my inheritance and losing this
Yeah.
money I'd worked so hard for 14 years. And like God was like, "No, that's not what you needed right then. This is what you needed."
Yep.
Yeah.
A
And he
clean
knew.
slate.
Because he knew without that, I would have been, you know, maybe I would have been too broken in my head,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
like to go on to deal with this. Like he knew that's what I needed.
Yeah.
So that verse just like,
That's your mantra.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like my
100%.
testimony is not good. Like it's not pretty and neat and it's ugly and it's unapologetically my past, right?
Yeah.
So
It's pretty much every character in the Bible
I
because
know.
Right.
every single one is just as screwed up as we are,
Absolutely.
and the hope that they have is Christ.
Yeah.
And that's the same hope that we share. And I like that you bring up that we can't be ashamed of our testimony, of our past, because that's where the beauty lies.
Yeah.
You know, it's not in the
Absolutely.
perfect days, it was in the broken days
Mm-hmm.
when you thought there was no hope, but there was, you know.
Yeah.
And it's relatable, it's authentic, it gives the man, if he can get through stuff like that, whatever I'm going through right now, I can get through it.
So that's perfect segue into my next thought.
Yeah, yeah.
was,
Let's go.
You know, I walk through the doors of Pathways. People ask me now, what's Pathways?
Yeah.
And, you know, me and David had talked before.
Yeah.
It's hard to, like,
Pinpoint it.
yes,
Yeah.
it's so hard. I'll tell people Pathways is hope. It's a place
Yeah.
people go to find hope.
Yeah.
And that's what it was for me.
It's a life-changing experience.
Yeah, for sure.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a logistical question for our
Okay.
listeners. What do the trainings look like?
Okay.
Like when you walk in and sit at a desk, what does that look like?
So it's very dark, very ominous, very like insane, very
We'll take
intimidating.
it. Yeah.
So you walk in, keep in mind that everybody that's walking in is basically going through it.
Right.
Like everybody's in a bad place. Everybody
Mhm.
wants something more. Everybody's lacking that hope. And you're trusting in somebody that suggested this to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going on a limb for yourself, right? Which was really hard for me because I was in the habit of punishing myself. And now I'm making a move to do something
Good.
good for myself.
Yeah.
So, you know, you look into the depths of that, and that was even like a big thing for me.
Yeah.
I trusted in somebody else, but I trusted in myself to walk through the doors. So you walk in, I'll just lay out the room. And
Yeah.
you walk into a room. The trainings used to be at a hotel. So you're in like a hotel, like
Conference
room,
Yeah.
ballroom thing, depending
Yeah.
on how big the class was.
Mhm.
So you walk in, lights are very low. There's a person standing in the front of the room in a dark suit. There's a table in the back of the room, and there's several individuals all in dark suits or dressed like, you know,
Dressed up. Yeah. Like, yeah.
sitting very like
Stoic.
stoic, like no expression.
Like, we mean business.
We mean freaking business. Like
Yeah.
even, okay, so I could just talk forever on this thing, but just setting the picture. I show up to the hotel at the time and place she told me to be, right? I have my bag, I'm ready to go. I get registered. Sarah's there, and she introduces me to one of her friends that has a friend that's going in as a trainee to this class also. So before the training starts on that Friday night, there's a ton of people there. It's the trainees, it's their sponsors. A lot of times it's a lot of people from the community that have gone through Pathways before are there to support. So literally that particular day, there had to have been 200 people,
Wow.
like throughout the hallway, the lobby of this
Yeah.
hotel. And I'm scared to death, y'all.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm
Am
about
I
to walk
joining a
into.
cult?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
I got to walk out with like 36 pans and I got to go sell them.
Right?
man, I don't know.
It gives me like Fight Club vibes. You know,
Oh,
like,
so true.
am I going to see Brad Pitt
Yeah,
walking
so
around
true.
Right.
with a busted up lip?
So you're in this foyer of the hotel, like outside of the ballrooms and stuff. There's tons of people there. Everybody's talking. It's real loud. So the doors to the room, the training room, bust open, and they're like, 10 minutes to the door, like real loud. And they walked up and down the hallway, 10 minutes to the door. And then however much time later, they're like, 3 minutes to the door. They come back out. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on? You know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
these people are like intense and they're yelling and like I'm like, what am I getting? But at the same time, everyone around you, everybody's just talking
Just
still and
chill,
just
like,
normal.
You're
and
like, okay, we're not in danger. So.
yeah, so it's like so odd. And then, you know, the time expires and there's a thing called Pathways time. And what that means is time doesn't exist. Like Pathways
Yeah.
time is whatever the heck they
Oh.
want Pathways time to be.
Yeah.
So, which is all trust the process, part of the training,
Yeah.
right? So
yeah.
the 3-minute warning, like however much time passes, and then all of a sudden the doors bust open. And they're like, Pathways class 369.
Yeah.
And they open the door and they're giving instructions. Like belongings by the wall, blah, blah, blah. They're telling you like what to do. And I'm just looking around and
What by the
we're all
wall?
like your belongings by the wall. They're giving like
Oh,
door
okay.
instructions.
Yeah.
So, you know, cell phones off, belongings
Yeah.
by the wall, find a seat,
Yeah.
whatever. So, and then everyone starts clapping. Like the whole room, like everyone in there that's not walking into this room
Like applauding you for
starts
being
applauding.
there.
So they call it a
Oh.
clap in.
Yeah.
So people come from the Pathways community to clap in each class.
Oh, it's like you made it.
Yeah, so it's like, but to us, we're like,
Yeah.
what is going
What's
on?
happening?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So all the like, 100 plus people are clapping for us and cheering like very loudly.
Wow.
These people are angry in this room.
Yeah.
They're all dressed in dark suits. Like, what is going on? I'll never forget that Sarah's friend that was there, that we had been talking like kind of the whole time leading up to the training. She had a girl named Martha with her that she was sponsoring into my class. And I'll never forget this. We're walking through the door and Martha just reached over and grabbed my hand and just squeezed my hand really tight. And I was like,
oh gosh.
okay.
Yeah.
I was
We're
like,
in
if you
this
hold mine
together.
too, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
If we're going down, we're going down together.
we walk into the room and you come in the doors and you walk in the room and it's lights low, table of dark suited people in the back, person in the front and dark. Everyone's stoic. There's music playing. Like that, even the music was like, there's so many, like your sensory, like your
Yeah.
senses are just like
You
on-
just walked into a whole experience.
going crazy. Yes. And I just remember Martha like leaning over to me and whispering like, we're going to sit together, right?
Please don't leave
Please
me.
sit with me. So we sit together and
It's like
there's-
they're trying to confuse you.
yeah. So I'll lead you up to where our training started. Me and Martha sat together. We have like a double horseshoe, like a
Uh-huh.
horseshoe with another horseshoe behind it,
Yeah. Okay.
facing the lady standing alone in the front of the room.
Uh-huh.
Table with all the people in suits behind us.
Yeah.
So we sit down, music's going, the lights are low, so much thoughts, emotions, like I don't know what's happening right now. What have I got myself into? Martha's holding my hand very
Yeah.
tightly, like all these things. And the lady takes a step forward and she said, "Who wants to share?" And we have no idea. Like, we have no idea.
Oh my gosh.
And I'll never forget, a lady stood up, she's like my same age as me.
Yeah.
She stood up and she just, without missing a beat, she just told her story.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh.
Because, and I get emotional
that
just
gives me
thinking about
chills.
it.
Like the build up.
She tells her story and she didn't know what was going on. She didn't know what this was, but she had been so ready to tell her story
Yeah.
that when she said, "Who wants to share?" like she didn't skip a beat.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
She's
that,
like,
that
"Let
was
me
like
get this
her
out."
moment to get it off her chest and just put those words out there and put that story out there. And I'll tell you, like, one of the biggest thing in Pathways, you never speak about what happened in the room, right? Nobody's
Right,
story
right.
it stays in the room.
Yeah.
But she shared her story, and by the time she wrapped up talking, I collected my jaw off the floor.
Yeah.
And it's one of those moments where you're like, man, I thought I was messed up,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And you're like,
I'm with my people right now.
yeah. And it's just, it puts it in perspective, like what other people are going through.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, my stuff doesn't seem,
Yeah.
not to, you know, and you don't take away from yourself,
Right.
but it was just a
You're not
very
alone.
impactful moment
Mm-hmm.
of, man, somebody has it worse than me,
Yeah.
but they're here too. Right.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's almost like hope.
And you bond with these people
Yeah.
in this training.
Yeah.
That's such a big part of the training, is you bond with these people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
The courage it
insane.
takes.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Even to say your story.
And that in itself is so empowering for someone,
Uh-huh.
you know?
So we literally like someone who's highly suicidal to someone who's the soccer mom looking for more in life. Like, we connected in such an intense, like, heartfelt place
Yeah.
that it has such an impact on a person that I can't even put it into words, like how that connection helped me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Man, I want to go.
I
I want to go.
So that being said, like, really with Pathways, obviously a huge thing for me. It's something I
course.
believe in, like, wholeheartedly.
Who are the guys at the back?
So can I get in that in just a second?
Yes.
Okay. So I will tell you. So basically, if you fast forward on my training,
Yeah.
there's a part of the training. I'll say without giving away too much.
Yeah.
There's a part of the training that's kind of the cornerstone of the training,
Uh-huh.
and you have to basically make a contract with yourself.
Oh, wow.
And it's usually looks like an I am statement, but mine wasn't an I am statement, but most people's are. It's a this is my truth.
Mm.
This is who I really am type of moment, and you build to that point. So there's a process. There's one of the nights. It's like the last thing they do that night, and they start the contract process. And when I tell you that by the time we got to that point, that's in the second training. By the time I got there, I was so on fire to do different. I was so on fire to
So motivating.
change.
Yeah.
Like I was ready. I was.
It's like I have all these people around me,
Yes.
and we're all
Well, I
doing
was
this together.
So sick of my life. I was so sick of everything. I just wanted something different. I wanted to change. I was ready. Like I can't tell you how passionately ready I was.
Yeah.
So they said, tonight we're going to do a process that's going to change your life forever. Blah, blah. I don't even know how they lay it out. They kind of lay it out,
They lay it out well.
and they ask for like a volunteer who's ready. And when I tell you, I was like knocking people out of the way to get to the
Me, I'm
front
ready.
of the room.
Yeah.
And I did literally. Like I was like, nope,
Wow.
nope, it's me.
Yeah.
I got up there and we start the process, and I can't do it. I can't get in my heart.
Mm.
I want it so bad, but I can't like go there. I can't like dive in, and I just can't. I can't get it. I can't do the process. And they're like, out of the circle. Like, let the next person that's ready to do something different step in.
Mm.
Wow.
And
They're like, we mean business.
they kicked me out of the
Group. Yeah.
like of the the center of
Uh-huh.
the person that everything's focused on at that
Yeah.
time. So I go back into, we're in a circle. I think I feel like we were in a circle at that time, and had been in the middle of the circle. I go back in the circle, and they pull the next person up. Somebody else was in their heart and jumped in and started the process. And the whole time, as a class, we're supposed to be asking questions, doing follow-up stuff. Like, well, what does that mean? Like,
Mhm.
trying to dig for
Yeah.
that person. We're fighting for our classmate
Yeah.
along with the team. So I just stood there in silence, and I had my head down, and my fists were like clenched.
That shame came
that
right
anger,
back.
that anger's boiling out again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was so mad, y'all. I was so mad that night
At yourself or
at myself because
yeah.
not at them at all, at myself
Yeah.
because I couldn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
I was here. I'd showed up. I'd done all the things. I'd played all the games. They call them games, which is kind of twisted, but
Yeah.
because they're not fun.
Do you want to play a game?
Yeah. So I had done all this. I was so mad at myself because I, like, kind of like the person with suicide. Like, if I
Yeah.
don't get this, what's next?
Right.
Like, am I broken forever? Is it never going to be different? Like, zero hope. So, like, I was so mad. Clenched fists, down, beat red. And then a couple people got their contracts that night. And they kind of set the tone for the next day because the next day is contract day.
Mm-hmm.
So they got their contracts. I couldn't have cared less for them. I was in such a bad place that night. As we're walking out, they're like, oh, and you have a homework assignment tonight. We want you to write 10 pages tonight on what your life will be like if you never get this.
Damn. Oh shoot.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's wild.
I'll tell you, it's pretty intense
that
and
sounds
hardcore,
highly
the training.
effective though.
Yeah.
You lost me at 10 pages.
Yeah, I know. So
But they mean business.
I
Like
I-
not even a paragraph?
I walk out of the room. And so after the training was let out, at this point, we've all kind of gotten to know each other. We've all bonded. We've all
Yeah.
connected. We've gone and hung out and stuff. So everyone would hang out after the training got out, and then everybody would go back to bed. And you would
Yeah.
share a room. You would have like a roommate. from your class at the hotel. And I left everybody. I went upstairs. I was so mad. I went upstairs. I threw that paper, the homework assignment, on the nightstand, and I just jumped into bed and went to sleep. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to be around my class. I was so mad at myself. And the next morning, I woke up real early. My roommate was still asleep. I took a shower, got dressed, went downstairs. And outside of the rooms, like in this little lobby kind of area down there, is like a little lounge area down there. There was a table and chairs, and I sat there, and I got my notebook out, and I got that paper out and read it, and I just started writing. And I'm telling, like, my writing was like 2 inches. My letters were like 2 inches tall. I was underlining. I was like writing on like 18 pieces of paper at once. You know,
Yeah.
I'm pressing so hard. And exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation
Like,
point.
this is
Underline,
what my
underline,
life
underline.
would look like, and it's stupid. And
it's me just pouring my heart out, like
Yeah.
all my anger, all my frustrations, everything.
good.
And I was the first one down there. I'm doing this. I'm crying, like teardrops are falling on my paper. I'm writing. The team, I remember so vividly. The team came down, and they were going in to start their day, and they always start like get in there like at least an hour before the class. So, and I just remember the lead facilitator looking at me and kind of nodding.
Yep. I think that's,
Like, I see you. She's like,
that
"Keep
sounds like
going."
the purpose. Like, they wanted to get you to
Yeah.
that place where you were just
Uh-huh.
pissed and you just had to get it out.
Yes. So I was. So I'm telling you, for like, I don't know how long. Time eluded me in that time.
Yeah.
At that period, it's like I'm in my notebook and I'm just writing, and just pouring my heart out. And all of a sudden, I wrote, "When did I lose my faith?"
Oh.
Question mark, question mark, question mark. Underline. And I set my pen down. And I'm telling you, in that moment, and I always joke up when I tell this story, but in that moment, somebody grabbed my shoulder. And they said, it was one of my classmates. And he said, "Hey, David, I know we have a really big day today." He said, "I'd really like to do a class prayer before we go in." He goes, "Would you be willing to join us?"
Just in that moment, as you were.
Yeah. I
Wow.
mean, and I'm crying. Like,
Yeah.
I'm crying. There's tears coming down
Man.
my
That's
cheeks.
the Lord saying, look how easy it is to come back.
So we circle up. So we had 35 people when we started this training. So there's like 35 people. I don't know. Maybe a couple had already left at that point, but there's 30 something of us. And we have Christians, Muslims. We have people that don't believe in anything. Like
All walks of faith.
all walks
Yeah.
of faith. And all 30 something of us circled up. Everyone made the decision to circle up that morning.
Wow.
I'll
And
never
do the prayer.
Yeah. And I'll
Wow.
never forget my classmate, his name was Sean. Sean was we were kind of in an oval. And I was on one point of the egg. He was on the other point
Yeah.
of the egg. Okay. So we're face to face, 30 people away.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, he just looked in my eyes the whole time he prayed. And I couldn't tell you a word he said, not a single word he said. But he looked in my eyes the whole time, and the whole time he talked, like I felt the Holy Spirit like wash over me, like a wave, like drowning me.
That's beautiful.
It was so impactful.
Yeah.
And I remember all I could do was stare in his eyes. And it was just, God's Spirit was
Oh,
just hitting me
that's
like
so sweet.
like a tidal wave.
Mm.
And I just was just crying. Like I don't remember what I was thinking, anything. I was just
Yeah.
crying. And right at that moment, the doors open and they're like, let's go, class, come in, and
Yeah.
they're giving us our door instructions. And it's like the doors burst open, they're yelling.
crazy.
We go in for the next process. And I remember going in, I was just so like broken.
Yeah.
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 And everyone filters in and sits down, and we're in a double horseshoe again. And the end chair and the inside of the horseshoe was open, and I was the last one. And I sat down, and they play another stupid song. Like, music's a big part of Pathways.
Yeah.
And they play these songs like, I mean, it's all planned like to the T.
It's
like,
been a
process.
long
Yeah, something
day
stupid like that.
without you, my friend.
So they play a song, and then the song stops. I can't even remember what song it was.
Yeah.
And then they play it again.
What?
She's standing up there in the front. The people are at the table in the back. Nobody says anything. They just push play again, and they play the song again.
Okay, then.
And I just start bawling.
Aww.
Like sobbing uncontrollably, like broken. And I just had this Holy Spirit moment, and it was like the first time I'd ever let go.
Mm.
And I just let go and was raw in my brokenness. And I was just bawling my eyes out. And I don't know what happened. Like, seriously, I remember it way different than it probably happened. But the lead facilitator for Pathways is like 5 foot tall, like nothing. She's a tiny little girl. And I swear she body slammed me into the middle of the horseshoe. I just vividly remember like having my eyes open, seeing her across the room, and then closing my eyes, crying, and then opening my eyes again, and she was like here,
Right there, yeah.
right in my face. And all of a sudden, I was in the middle of the horseshoe, and
That you're sharing.
Yes,
Yeah.
and like as soon as they walked downstairs and saw me riding and crying, they were like,
You were done.
"We know who's starting today." So she, like, I don't know, transported me to the middle of the room. And she just looks at me in my eyes and she goes, "What do you want, David?
Oh.
What do you want?" And I just, like,
I bet.
Like the flood comes, right? And I just let it all go, pour my heart out. And then you go into a process, which I won't give away, but
Yeah.
you go into a process, and time eludes me. Like, who knows? I could have been doing this for 3 days. I don't know. I think it was more like 30 minutes. But
Yeah.
I got my contract, and my
Good.
contract was just simple as could be. It was, I love myself,
Aww.
because I'd never loved myself. I was always felt inadequate. I never had any idea of my self-worth. My self-esteem was so low, and this is like growing up always. And I'm telling you, it's like, it does tie into moving schools, having to start over fresh, like always wearing a mask, like to be the funny guy or get the attention, to make friends. And it's like I never knew my real value. And I feel like through my parents, like that, I'm sure affected it in ways too.
Yeah.
Of me feeling valuable, and I had an older brother, and I felt like he was mama's favorite. All those things like added up through my life that I never loved myself.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I chose to love myself.
That's beautiful.
So the most impactful part of that for me was that the night before, I wanted it so bad. When I tell you, I wanted it so bad. My heart was there. Like, I wanted to change. I wanted to be different. But it wasn't until I had my Holy Spirit moment the next morning that I realized what the missing piece was.
He empowered you.
Yeah.
He gave you the strength.
Absolutely.
To do what you needed to do.
Absolutely.
You can't love yourself without Christ.
No, exactly.
You can't truly love yourself without Christ or love others.
It's absolutely true. And so we'll fast forward in my training a little bit. The other like super impactful moment of my training is there's a process during the training where the team picks leaders in the class, for a leader from each small group in the class, and they picked me as a small group leader.
Nice.
And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So, and again, there's another process earlier in the training where they picked me as a leader too. You get like assigned a song. It's called your stretch song. and it plays like a big role in the training,
Yeah.
but you don't know it at the time, but there's like meaning behind the song they give you, and there's a reason they pick you for a certain song.
Sounds so intricate, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
It does.
So it's really cool. So if you're a male lead, and every class does not have one, but if you're the male leader in the class and you come through in a certain kind of way during the training, you get picked as an Elvis.
An
And
Elvis?
They assign you an Elvis song. If I Could Dream
Oh.
is the song, and they don't tell you what's happening when they tell you. You get a card that has some names on it, and then it has a song name and an artist. And they tell you to get together, and you need to learn your lyrics to your song and memorize the lyrics and blah. There's like
The way I would be,
It's a whole, yeah.
the way that I would be so confused all weekend is real.
Yeah, facts.
for sure. So, I was, trust me.
Yeah.
So
You're like, I'm here for a good time.
there
We're
was
just
3 names on our card. It was me and 2 other guys, and it said, "If I Could Dream, Elvis." So they tell us to go look up the song, familiarize ourselves with the lyrics, blah blah blah. So they dismiss us on a break. So we go up to our hotel room, and we're like, we listen to it because none of us knew the song.
Yeah.
We listen to it like on iTunes or whatever. We like
Dissect it.
pull the lyrics up,
Yeah.
and we're like, and they tell you a couple things like pick the most meaningful line from the song for you or something. They ask you to do a few things, and we play the song, and we're like, this song is terrible. Like it doesn't have a beat. There's no like rhythm.
it's
to
like
it.
Elvis's least favorite
Song.
song.
Like it's not like, and everyone else is getting like all these pop songs and songs that are like catchy, and you know the lyrics too, and you know the beat, and you can snap your fingers and clap your hands and all this.
Yeah.
Right? We get If I Can Dream, which I don't know if y'all know this song, but y'all got to look it up afterwards if y'all don't. So, we're complaining. We go back downstairs when we're supposed to like reconvene, and they bring us back in the room. And before they bring us back in the room, they come out in the hallway, and the door person, the people that are like 10 minutes to the door, they're like, "We need to see David, Sean, Kenny, and we need to see and they named a few of the girls." And we're like, "Oh man, what do we do?" So we go in there. They call me in there, and they're like, they kind of make you think you're in trouble,
Yeah.
just to mess with us. But they're like, "No, we brought you in here because the song you were given has a special meaning, right?"
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're like, not every class has an Elvis, and this class had 3 Elvises. And they're like, Elvises are the leaders of the class. They're the leaders in the organization. Like, we see leadership potential in you.
That's cool.
And I'm like, what? When I tell you that boggled my mind, that I didn't see anything in myself. Such low self-esteem and self-worth. So they picked me as an Elvis. And they lay out what that means. And me and the 2 other guys just look at each other, and we're like, oh, crap. Like, we've been complaining about this song. We were like griping. We were telling them this song is terrible.
But you're like, this
But
is
then they
actually...
tell us the meaning behind it.
There's such a deep meaning to it.
Like, all 3 of us just like looked at each other, and our heads instantly went down.
Shame on you.
So then they like that was another part of the training for me. And then so they fast forward, they assigned me as a small group leader. And again, these are just building bricks for me
for sure.
on stuff that I could never imagine.
So when this program was going on, this wasn't long ago. This is pretty recently, right?
Yeah, this was so I went through in 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
Okay.
From August to November
Gotcha.
2018 is when I graduated. So one of the trainings, they basically right after you do the small group leaders, they go into a process where they have the class nominate or vote for a large group leader, which is like the class leader.
Yeah.
And they tell you there's like a reasoning behind it. There's like, you will have some responsibilities and
For sure.
And the point is, by the last training, there's not like small group leaders. There's not a team. Going back, the people in the suits everybody has a job. You have people that in there interning. You have people that are small group leaders. You have people that are controlling like the music and the flow and making
Just
sure
all
the
the
facilitators you have your facilitator. So you have a team captain that's over the team
Mm,
and kind of the liaison to the class.
gotcha.
So everyone has a role inside the room.
yeah.
So the class votes for a large group leader, and they call 3 people up and say, these are the top 3 vote getters. And I was one of them.
Wow.
That's so
And
cool.
I was just like, what is happening? Like, I'm telling you, the David y'all know today was not the David that used to be. Like,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
so confused by why people kept seeing something in me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because in
Yeah.
my mind, I'm just a failure.
Right.
I screw everything up I touch. I can't hold on to a job, a relationship.
Yeah.
I can't do anything right. I'm a failure, you know? And these people keep like laying this foundation of we see something in you. We see something in
Yeah.
you. And it was the team, and then it was this team,
Mm,
and now it's my own class.
mm.
Yeah.
And
It builds you up.
yes, like so there was 3 people, but I was still not there yet. There was 3 people. I was one of them. So they say, we're going to revote. The whole class is going to vote again. These are your only 3 candidates.
Yeah.
So that's how they like narrow it down to
Gotcha.
a person. So I go to vote and I'm like, who do I want to be the LGL, him or her? You know, I'm thinking that, and I'm thinking, who do I want to vote for? And the girl sitting next to me leans over to me and she goes, you're going to vote for yourself, right? And when I tell you that thought had not crossed my mind,
Mm.
like at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I just looked at her like she was from Mars.
Is that allowed?
And I was just like, I think I am going to vote for myself.
Yeah.
And I did. And that was the first time I'd ever voted for myself in my life.
Wow.
Like on anything,
That's
in any way.
beautiful.
And that was such an impactful moment for me. I remember that
Yeah,
moment.
because you
to
felt
the
like you
day I
you
die.
deserve.
Yeah. So I love that the Lord has redeemed so much in your life. So much.
Yes.
And I was saving the best for last.
Okay.
You have a beautiful wife
Yes.
and you have a beautiful, precious daughter.
Yes.
How did you, tell me her name, which I know her name, but
Okay.
you can introduce her and tell us how y'all met.
So it all ties in. So my wife is Tiffany. I met Tiffany post Pathways. She like has her own story, but we have a lot of parallels
Yeah.
like in our past. And you know, I had met her because ironically, again, God had so many fingers in everything. The girl I was with before Pathways, that partied all the time and
Yeah.
was real toxic and all this stuff that I was kind of settling for.
Yeah.
That version of David was settling for.
Yeah.
Well, David that loves himself isn't going to settle for that.
Yeah.
Mm.
So,
That's beautiful.
she had a daughter I had alluded to that was like a teenage daughter.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, her best friend was Tiffany's oldest son. So me and
Oh my
Tiffany had
gosh.
met like a couple times through
Yeah.
the kids. We didn't know each other or anything, you know, not a lot of interaction at all, but we knew each other through the kids. We had like become Facebook friends. So, but nothing like, you know, there was nothing there. And fast forward, like through my whole process of Pathways, I graduate. I'm living like a life on fire. I'm posting all this like spiritual stuff because I
Mhm.
found my faith
Yeah.
in that room. It's not a faith-based organization, but I found my
Yeah.
faith.
Jesus
Again.
can work with anything.
Yes, absolutely. So if that's you're gonna find what you're missing in that room.
Yeah.
Yes.
So and that was what I was missing. That's what I needed. I couldn't get it without him. So I'm living this new life on fire. I'm a new person. I'm a leader. I'm valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just like living it on social media. I'm living it in the real world. I'm living it like every way I can. I'm searching for a church home. I'm doing all these things like to change my life because I wanted change, right? That's what I was so desperate for. So one day out of the blue, I got a message on Facebook Messenger from Tiffany.
Ooh, she slid into those DMs, didn't she? Yeah.
So she said, "Can you tell me about this Pathways thing that you post about a lot?" And
You're like, yes, ma'am, I can.
I was like, and at this time, I'll go shout it on the mountain, right?
Yeah.
Because like of what I've just been through, and I'm telling her about it, and she kind of told me, I've been through some stuff, like I'm not, in a good place, and I see. Like,
Same thing with you.
I see
and
something
that
in
friend.
you. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And
Mhm.
she's like, I think it's worth me reaching out and just asking.
Yeah.
So I tell her about it, and obviously those conversations like continue, and next thing you know, like we have a real phone number and we're texting and stuff. So, but I tell you, at this time, I was like living a life on fire, and I had sworn off women.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
When
Like
I
you
tell
weren't even thinking about
No, I did
getting
not
a
want a
relationship.
relationship. I didn't want anything like that. I was like,
The Lord's like, perfect.
yes, exactly. Let me show you
Yeah.
what you think you know the timing. Okay, watch
Right.
this. So, I had told her that. I was very open with her, and you brought it up at the very beginning. You said it takes a lot of vulnerability to come on to a podcast and say that you cheated on your wife, right?
Yeah.
So Tiffany told me the exact same thing.
Wow.
She goes
For sharing with her everything.
I was so open with her and so honest. And
You felt
just-
comfortable.
I told her everything from the
Yeah.
beginning because I'm like, I'm not going to live behind a mask anymore.
Yeah.
I'm
You're
gonna
going to
be
know
authentic.
the real me.
Yeah. And she was just like, of all the guys I've dated, been with, like, no one's ever been this honest with me. And I've known you for like
That's
a month.
incredible,
Yeah.
man.
You know?
Honesty is the best green flag
Yeah.
when it comes to sharing
Without a doubt.
your life
I mean,
experiences.
Yeah.
it changes. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
is.
So I'm telling her, and she's like, that's so refreshing. Like, I've never been in a relationship that I had that honesty in.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing led to another, and I told her, I don't want to be in a relationship. I've sworn off women. So she quit reaching out. So
Bye, Felicia.
yeah, exactly. So one day, and I travel a lot for work. I'm on the road like every other week.
Yeah.
And
Till this day, or
yeah, still.
still.
So I got another God piece. Some people I met from that same ex that our kids were connected to Tiffany's kid. She had some friends of friends that we had met through them that I had gone to a couple parties with, or, like people, like a little house party or something like
Yeah.
that, or barbecue or whatever, and had met these people. Well, they had put in a word at their work that they knew a guy that was looking for work, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, after Pathways, I left this girl.
Mm.
You make a commitment during Pathways. They ask you not to make any life-altering changes until 30 days after your graduation.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the commitments you make.
That's interesting. Yeah, but that's good.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, they don't want somebody coming out of the first training and be like, "That's it, I'm divorcing my."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they want you to go through the entire process
Think about it. Yeah.
and process everything and make a healthy
Mm-hmm.
decision, right? If it's
Yeah.
life altering. So I had the 30th day marked on my calendar, and that day I loaded up my car with every single thing I could. If it didn't fit, I didn't care. And I drove out of the driveway, and I never
Yeah.
went back to that relationship.
That was it. Yeah.
Wow.
So, relationship's over. She was not supportive of Pathways either. She called it my cult,
Oh.
and was just like tried to tear me down. But they say, like, when you're moving up, like your partner's either going to come with you or they're going to go the opposite and bring you down.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I wasn't going to have her bring me down. So
Right.
I left on the 30th day. And it wasn't a month later that Tiffany reached out to me
Mm-hmm.
the first time.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Before you broke her heart and pushed her away.
It
No, I'm just
wasn't.
kidding.
It wasn't
I got you, Tiffany.
a month later.
I got
that,
you, girl.
It wasn't a month later that I had gotten a job offer for that job that I had interviewed for, which is my job to this day. So I have a career, a beautiful, beautiful, loving wife, a little girl, Ellie, who's 4 years
Oh,
old.
she's so cute.
Yes.
And that was another thing. My ex-wife could not have kids. And 13 years with her, I never had children.
Mm-hmm.
Through all my depression and all my hard times, I had convinced myself I didn't deserve children
Yeah.
and I would never have
But
kids.
it was probably a desire of your heart under there.
Always.
Yeah.
And Tiffany and I were able to have a beautiful baby girl that has changed my world, man, and fulfilled so many things that I never thought I deserved.
Yeah.
But now I know I was born for.
Yeah.
And
Girl dad.
yeah, for real. It's a thing, man. So, yeah, I had told her I didn't want anything to do with women, and then I was sitting in the hotel on a work trip, and I was like really bothered, and I was like, man, what's the matter with me? I feel kind of depressed and bummed out, and I'm like, crap, I miss Tiffany,
Oh.
and I was like, I don't want to miss a girl. Yeah. You know, but
she already had you. She knew.
She did, man. And it was
he'll be
like,
back.
I texted her and was like, hey, why haven't you reached out? You know, she's like, well, you told me you didn't want nothing to do with women.
Yeah,
like, basically.
for real.
So I
You're
mean,
like, I didn't think you'd take me seriously.
yeah, for real. So don't ever listen to me. So the rest is history. Like, we headed off. We went on our first date. She literally has told me that she was sitting outside the restaurant in her car, like convincing herself to leave. And she was on the phone with a friend that like talked her into going in with me.
That's funny.
So, and I mean, it was so different for both of us. It was a different mindset, a different reality. It was coming from a heartfelt place.
Right.
Things looked different.
Like this was real.
Yeah, it was real.
Yeah.
Truths were being said.
It's
you
just
know,
pure.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we took it slow, but it was so obvious right away that it was meant to be and that it was a fit.
Yeah.
And she probably thinks I'm crazy, and probably did then too, because again, I was like on fire, man. I was like making up for lost time, like
Right.
You know,
You're like I'm living
what
my
have I
life.
been doing? Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. Like something that's been big here. First of all, let me ask y'all something. What does vulnerability mean to y'all?
Letting someone fully see and know you, but also like letting someone invest in your life. And it's like a two-way, you know, like, because I think about someone that's really prideful, never accepts help. Someone that's very vulnerable and open will accept help and accept people.
Yeah. I think vulnerability is just somebody who's comfortable in their own skin.
Okay.
And I always use the analogy of it's like you're in your house and somebody comes walking past your house and they can see through the window what's going on inside. That's transparency, but vulnerability is welcoming them into your house.
I like that visual.
That's good, yeah.
So I had looked up a definition of vulnerability, and it says it's a state of emotional exposure that comes with a certain degree of uncertainty. It involves a person's willingness to accept the emotional risk that comes from being open and willing to love and to be loved. So I read this.
I like that
It's a
emotional
risk.
exposure.
Well, that's what I was like. Exposure, uncertainty, risk. I was like,
yeah.
vulnerability is scary, man.
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
It can go one of two ways.
And it is, and it's so hard for people that aren't open and honest to do that, because it's a scary word.
Yeah.
But that has always told me that being vulnerable is an act of faith.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we're born to, or like we're created to be in community. how do you be in true, authentic community?
Mm-hmm.
Vulnerability.
Yeah.
Yep.
You have the risk is worth it
I
when
think
it comes to vulnerability.
I think too vulnerability. You see it with Adam and Eve when they were naked and unashamed. Is what the Bible says. That's being vulnerable. Is being naked and unashamed. And when Jesus came in flesh, he was absolutely vulnerable. You know, and it made everyone uncomfortable. It made everyone like question who this man was because of how honest and open he was, you know, and how humble he was, and how he wasn't scared to correct, to call out what was wrong,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and stand up for injustice, and being able to be to just be welcoming to all, and not being ashamed of who he was around.
Mm-hmm. And you think about that, the you know, I've watching The Chosen
yes,
Yeah.
love
over the last
Chosen.
year. Like last year, me and Tiffany caught up on
Yeah.
the season. So it's just funny how he's doing all these things. He's living this way. He's being truthful. He's laying it all out there, but it doesn't look like what anybody thought it would look like, right?
Mhm.
So he is being like laying out all this truth, and this is like this is what it's gonna look like.
Yeah.
And like, how often can we not wrap our head around like what it's supposed to look like?
Right.
And how many times has Jesus come to me, young David, and been like, this is what you're capable of. This is
Right.
like, these things are going to be put in place to show you how vulnerable you could be because you believe in yourself and you see your worth.
Yeah.
So it's just funny. Like, I always laugh at that, like how just dumb we were at or the people back then, even the disciples, like,
Yeah.
well, what do you mean? Like, it's supposed to look like this, you
Right.
know? Like, and we do that in our life every dang day,
Yeah.
man.
So true.
Y'all, so we're almost at 2 hours.
Yeah. I did want to.
This happens every time. We just start flowing and conversation is good.
So before we close out, I do just want to say what's one thing that if you could give anyone who's listening to this episode one encouragement, what would it be?
I'll tell you the most impactful line from Pathways for me
Okay.
was, if you want something different, you have to do something different.
Boom.
Ooh, boom. If you want something different, you
Bro,
have to
that's-
do something different. That is good.
That's good.
It's so simple, but so profound.
Yep. It's all about the action piece. You have to
Yes.
do different.
That's
or nothing
beautiful.
will ever change.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
we
you,
were
man.
so glad.
My
And
pleasure.
to our listeners, be sure to like, share, subscribe,
Yes.
comment, all the things. We would totally appreciate
And
it.
also keep an eye out in the bio. We'll be adding Pathways
Yes.
website, any information that you can give us,
Yep.
Perfect.
so we can share it with people.
In our show notes and
Right. Correct.
Instagram,
Yep.
bio, all that kind of stuff. So,
So
but
but we love y'all so much. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for listening. Love, peace, and chicken grease. And see you later. Peace.
bye.